Today I'm working on a cutout in a pillar on the front of a house. This is a hole that was made by a woodpecker, and then bees chose to use that to move into this column. The homeowner wants these bees out and they want the column repaired. Hopefully it won't be too bad of a job. I did a heat signature on this and it looks like the bees may go up a couple feet in there. I'm going to start by cutting an opening just around that hole, and then we'll be able to see inside and maybe see better about what's going on and how far up we have to go. So let's get into it and see what we have. So this comb is all vertical. I'm planning to put this colony in a Langstroth hive. If I were putting this in a lay-ins, it'd be perfect for those frames, but I'm gonna have to cut some of this comb depending on how much brood they have available. Today I'll get to give my new Bee Vac its inaugural run. Built this myself, didn't really have any plans. Went with a design that I liked, got it put together, and gonna take it on its inaugural run today. For those who are unfamiliar with a Bee Vac, or even the concept that you can vacuum up bees when you collect them, a Bee Vac is a little different than a typical shop vac. Although bees are pretty resilient creatures, you want to be as gentle as possible so as not to harm them while vacuuming them up. The Bee Vac that I built uses a vacuum head that's actually a fairly inexpensive head that goes on a 5-gallon bucket. It typically uses a 1 1/4 inch hose. But to reduce the air velocity, I'm actually using a 2.5 inch hose. And on my Bee Vac that I built, I have a relief valve that I can actually reduce the suction pressure. So I can adjust it just so it is enough to pick up the bees. Once I had removed a number of the bees with the vacuum, then I could go ahead and start removing the comb. And I took it out piece by piece and carefully put it in the bucket. I set the pieces in upside down, but oriented to each other the same way as they were in the hive. And that way when I put them in frames, I could have them together as they were in the hive. Now the honeycomb sections I would put in a separate bucket to be fed back to the bees later. The brood comb I wanted to save to put into frames. I got a little ambitious with this piece and tried to pull the whole piece out, and that piece of honeycomb, which is heavier, broke off and fell. It did have some bees on it, and I went down and checked to make sure that the queen wasn't among them and did not see her. Because it was honeycomb, I wasn't too concerned that she would be on there. Once I had removed the comb, I mounted the brood comb into frames to be put into the hive. And when I did this, I would cut the comb to try to save as much of the brood as possible while still being able to mount it in the frame mostly upright so that I wouldn't too much change the angle of the cells in the comb from the way the bees had built it. So here's where things stand right now. I got all the comb out of the cavity. The majority of the brood comb, probably about 80%, I got mounted on frames and put into that nucleus colony. But as I was vacuuming the bees out, after I got the comb cut out, I saw that a lot of bees had gone up higher into the column and I couldn't really reach them. Now, I don't know what's at the top of that column, if it's blocked at the top or if it goes up into the ceiling there. And so I really don't want to smoke up in there. One, I don't want to push smoke into the house. And two, I don't want to push the bees farther up. So I've set the swarm trap there. It's got some bees, got some brood. I'm hoping that some bees will start fanning and possibly start a march of the bees from that cavity into the, did I say swarm trap? Into that nucleus box. So we'll see what happens now. Still working to get the bees out of the upper part of this column and have been making some progress because I figured out that there is a block about 5 feet up. So I went ahead and started pushing some smoke up there, and that got some bees to come out. But a lot of them went down into this section, which isn't very deep, and you can see there's a robin's nest in there. So to get them to move out of there, I grabbed a bottle of Honey Bandit and sprayed a couple squirts down in there, and that really got them to move out. Now we got bees up here on the column and up here on the lid of our nuke box, but not all of them are going in. However, there are a few bees starting to fan at the entrance, so I'm hoping that that will start a chorus of fanning here and attract bees into the box and maybe get a march started. Have not seen the queen, still keeping an eye out for her. I was vacuuming bees out earlier, but I doubt that she was in the bees that were on the outer part of the comb that I was vacuuming from. We'll just keep our eyes open and hopefully things will progress here. Well, overall, I think this cutout was a success. At least I was able to successfully remove all the comb. Got out the majority of the bees. There's still a few flying around. Not certain about whether I got the queen. I actually saw the queen at one point, and it was as I was up on the ladder just after I had dropped my queen clip. So I raced down, grabbed the queen clip, climbed back up, and then did not find her again. I'm hoping that I got her in the Bee Vac. We'll be able to see that when we put them in a hive back at home. But otherwise, got the comb into the nucleus box, and we will put that into a 10-frame hive when we get home, along with the bees. Not a bad day. Got the job done. Didn't fall off any ladders. Got a fairly clean cutout. The homeowner has a contractor who's going to come and replace the piece that was cut out, so I don't have to worry about replacing that. I'm just going to cover it over with plastic to protect it from the elements and make sure any remaining bees don't get back in there and start building any comb again. Now the job is just to get these bees moved into the hive. Those who followed the series of trying to get bees into a Langstroth box saw that I had the nucleus colony that we had put queen cells into, saw a virgin queen, and then they were queenless. In fact, not just queenless, but had almost no population. Shortly after that, they were robbed out, so the one frame of honey they had was emptied out. So basically just some lone bees hanging out in the nucleus colony. Now I needed that nucleus box in order to do this cutout, or at least I wanted to use the nucleus box, so I moved those bees into this 10-frame hive. They have no queen, there's just a handful of bees, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the new bees from the cutout into this hive, and there may be a little bit of scuffling, but I don't think it's going to be anything too bad. And actually what I think I'll do, I have 5 frames of foundation on this end, and I'll just put in our 5 frames of comb from the cutout and let these bees have the frames they're used to on that end. And we'll kind of watch for the queen as we move these over. And I don't need to watch for the queen because she's right here. How fortunate is it to pop the lid when you're expecting to have to do some hunting for the queen, and bingo, there she is right there. That's pretty exciting. There is our queen from our cutout. Now we can just put the bees in this box and everything else is easy. When you introduce a new queen into a hive that has bees like that, there's a possibility they may not accept her, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern. They're queenless. I'm hoping that sudden introduction like that will go just fine. Pretty good number of bees in the box here. That's great. And I've got my other box from the Bee Vac. These pieces of comb are at just a slight angle from what they were. They were vertical in that column, and I tilted them just slightly to be able to include more of the brood. That's going to change the natural angle of the comb that the bees had built, but I think it's such a slight difference that it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I do have all of these angled the same way. I tried to put the comb in these frames in the same order it came out of that hive, so should all be pretty consistent with what they had in there. Now this last piece, okay, it fell over. It was just a little piece of comb. I'll go ahead and put it in there. They'll build up from that. So now I've got the bees that were vacuumed up by my new Bee Vac, and I'll do a future video on how I built it. I wanted to give it a test run first, so got not a ton. They're all kind of piled up against the side over here. We'll just open up this front gate and let them walk in. Overall, I think this Bee Vac worked pretty well for having built it in the couple days before I actually did this cutout. Well, so far, this walk right in isn't doing the thing. Let's see if they get the idea here. Need a little urging. There we go. Now walk in. Once they get a whiff of that queen and start fanning, they should run right in pretty well. We'll push these bees back. There, we got bees going in the entrance, but we got some heading back towards the box. All right, getting a more organized flow towards the entrance. I don't really know the best way to do this, and I know it's dangerous to feed honey, especially as we're kind of going into a dearth here. I want to feed this comb back to the bees. So rather than open feed and have all the colonies go after it, I put down an inner cover, have a spacer. It's not actually a shallow, it's just a spacer. On top of that, I'll put another inner cover on top of that, and then the telescoping lid. If anybody has any suggestions about the better way to feed this back, I am open to that. Besides that, I know I'm putting things at risk for robbing, but I'm hoping tonight they make pretty good progress on cleaning this up, so hopefully it won't be an issue. As far as the bees in the Bee Vac, they started marching in pretty well, and now they've kind of, there's still some going in, but I'm just gonna have to shake this out some more, I think, and get them moving. They seem to kind of like that box now, so we'll kind of try to get them motivated. And I'm gonna go ahead and check on the hive and see how well the bees are getting settled in. There's been decent activity at the entrance. With our heat and drought right now, things have kind of slowed down in the flow anyway, so haven't seen a huge amount of forager activity, but the bees seem to be coming and going all right, and things seem to be all right there. So I want to open up the hive, see how well they've cleaned out the honeycomb that I added in there, and just see how well they're doing overall. Hopefully we'll see that they've built up some comb around the pieces that were cut out, and that the queen is laying in this hive. Let's open up the hive and see how they're doing. I'm pleased to report that there wasn't any robbing that I saw going on in this hive, and I watched it pretty closely for the couple days after I had done the cutout. So that didn't seem to be a problem despite my fears. It does look like they've cleaned it out pretty well, so that is a good thing. They've cleaned this comb out, but it looks like they've also kind of attached it to the sides. I'll have to clean it up with the hive tool. Bees have already cut some of the rubber bands, so hopefully they've got that comb attached fairly well. Nothing happening on this frame, it's just open comb, or empty foundation I should say.
This next frame is pretty empty. I've got some nectar stored up on this side. I was going to say it had a little heft to it, and that's what I'm feeling is the nectar on there. Because I'm getting these bees started late this year, I will probably be feeding these going through August to get them a good start. And this frame has nectar on this other side about the same as the last one we saw, but it's empty on this back side. This next frame was empty foundation that they are building out, and it's not fully built out yet and not built out as much on this side toward me. It's possible, and it's a frame that's built out, it's possible we may see some brood on here. Well, I see nectar, and there she is. Her queen is right over here, active. So when I introduced her in this hive, I had a little concern about the fact that there were already bees in here, that they might have an issue with her, but obviously there's no issue. She is in here. I'm not spotting eggs in these middle cells. It looks like they have them prepared for her. Around the outer edges, they have honey stored up, but not seeing larvae in the middle yet. Okay, so this is obviously one of the pieces from the cutout. Looks like they have it attached to the top pretty well. That's good. They have some bee bread stored up in there, and I do see some larvae in these cells. Next frame, more bee bread. They've got some cat brood on here, got some larvae. I'm not seeing very young larvae or eggs yet, but with the disruption of moving the bees, it may just take a little time for that queen to really get started. I'm not going to be too concerned at 9 days. It's like this piece tilted a little bit, but they did attach it to the top, so it shouldn't move much more. They've got that comb attached pretty well. Still got some cat brood in there, some bee bread, got some nectar in there. Kind of thought we might see some more comb built out from the honey that they moved, but not seeing that yet. And when I feed them, we'll probably see more comb building going on. And then this final piece, this one's kind of a mess. They actually have it attached to the wall. I might actually pull this one out and replace it with a frame of built out comb. This is just the tiny piece that didn't really want to stand up very well. It fell over, and rather than build up from it, they have attached it to the wall. There's nothing on it really. Couple capped cells, little bit of bee bread, but no big loss if we give them a frame of comb. And I think I'll replace not just that last frame with a little piece of comb, but also this first frame that I pulled that was just empty foundation. Let the bees have a little bit more of a head start by giving them comb that's already built out, rather than making them build out another frame from bare foundation. So now, after looking in the hive, I think I can safely and confidently say that that cutout was a complete success. We got our new colony started in here. We've got our new queen in here. So I'm really happy with how things have gone. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to make sure you get notifications of future videos. And if you have enjoyed this video, you might also like this one that Google has selected just for you. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.